Hello, welcome to behind the scenes of episode 2 of season 1 of Hey There, what you been up to? So far, things are going well. Got several episodes recorded and it's going good. I think things are flowing well. This is episode 2 with Matt DeWitt, a guy I know from Nagani from way back. Probably, I don't know exactly when I met Matt, but I'm going to say it was probably 30 years ago. Yeah. He um, where should I start? Should I start at the beginning or start at the end? Because he has a nice podcast you should check out called Brain Squalls. There's a Facebook page for it. Check that out. He and his wife talk about creative writing. They write, or they do the podcast about writing a story, which is neat because she's a writer, and we talk about that in the episode. That she was even up for an award for like horror fiction, so that's cool. In the podcast, though, it seems like they kind of just take random subjects, at least the ones I've watched, where they discuss a storyline, build some characters. I think they might have done several episodes in a row that built the same story, which was, I'm going to be way off on this, but it was like some sort of like character that was like a Disney character that grew up in the woods. And I don't know if the character was an animal or if the character interacted with animals, but I think the character, maybe the character couldn't speak, but the animals could speak to the character. I don't know. Anyways, they definitely go out on a limb there and explore some really creative subject matter. So check out Brain Squalls on Facebook. And that was the latest stuff that I saw Matt working on. But before that, I mean, he was into, when I first met Matt, he was into DJing. Um, Me and some buddies had some equipment way back in the day, and we did a little bit of DJing at the school dances, the middle school dances, and it was pretty low quality rinky dink stuff. We had some homemade light boxes that were manually flashed with light switches. So I remember taking my turn at the light box, and you'd listen to the song and just flip the light switches to the beat. It wasn't it wasn't automated like it should have been, but yeah, that was fun. It was a cool experience. And Matt got into DJing, except he took it and made a real business out of it. And he was doing a lot of gigs at, I think he got in with the bars. That's kind of where his bread and butter was, and weddings. So once you get to a certain level with the DJing business, you can start doing the weddings and making the big money and getting some tips. But you got to be able to entertain the family, and we're talking everybody from the little niece and nephews to grandma and grandpa up there, and it's got to all be appropriate for that kind of setting. And you got to make somebody's special day extra special for them. And what goes along with that also is the MCing. Usually you're running the show and making the announcements, so you've got to be comfortable with all that, and Matt does a really good job with it. So I always remember whenever I'd bump into Matt, he's always had something good to talk about. We always chatted a lot. So a lot of things on his mind, and he was willing to chat about them. So that was always fun chatting with Matt. And I knew if I picked him for a guest early on in this series, that he'd do a lot of the heavy lifting on the episode, so I could just get a feel for how to interview again and how to uh, sit back and carry a conversation. But that's kind of been the secret so far, is all the guests are way better at this than I am, so they carry the show. And hopefully with my unedited style, that people are still able to enjoy the long format of a old "Hey there, how you doing" chat, kind of like the old days when you called your buddy up on the telephone and just said, "What's going on?" And they just said, "Well, nothing." And then you were like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "Nothing." You're like, well, actually I did this the other day. It's kind of cold out, but we went ice fishing. And did you get anything? Well, nothing was biting except, well, like a couple bluegills and whatever. So this is it. I'm working on maybe some graphics. I don't know. I might try to do some sort of little animated, not animated, but like a uh, some sort of podcast. I don't know, graphics. Or I already have the image of myself shoveling snow. That's a pretty good one. I've got a little. It's almost like a GIF animation where the shovel goes up and down to a little funny music. I made it for something else, but I've got this little kind of like a little beat from the keyboard, a little program beat that's in there, a little tune, and but I don't know if I want to use that. We'll see. It's and then it goes along to the beat of the shovel going up and down. So it's like, uh, and except in that one I made it, and at the end it's like I ain't got nothing better to do, because that was what that was all about. So maybe I'll throw in a little overdub where I say, hey there, what you been up to? Anyway, Matt also, after DJing, uh, purchased and opened a bar in Ishpeming, and I joke with him about how many bars there already were in the town, because it's kind of like Ishpeming and Nagani are full of bars for how big the towns are and how few businesses there are. Mostly bars, yeah. There. I think he said there's like 8 or 9 in Ishpeming, um, and and I would say, I don't know, Nagani probably 4 or 5 if you include the like the Elks Club and the Eagles Club and those places that serve alcohol. So small towns, lots of bars, kind of goes back to our mining heritage. So you needed somewhere to spend your paycheck after a long day in the mine working. And it was all hours. It was an all hours activity. I mean, if you worked third shift, you could head to the bar when you got off at 6 in the morning. So it was 24/7. Good. The bars were never empty. I don't think so. And even today, the third shifters, they might head out for a drink after work. And it's just because after work is 6 a.m. doesn't mean that, you can't go to the bar. And I wrote a little episode of the web series that I was working on, the comedy web series, which had the working title of Born to Fail, about living in Irontown and growing up there and butting heads with all the locals and that. And I did have an episode written up about the third shift bar crowd, and about the character wanting to partake in the third shift bar crowd, but didn't really have the credentials of being a third shift worker, um, or midnight shift worker. So I won't bore you with the details of that. But Matt opened, he purchased a bar that I think was called Woody's, and it was in tough shape. I remember stopping by there. It's across the street from the Venice, and there's also, I don't know what, there's like something right next to it that's like a VFW maybe, that used to have a good fish fry on Friday. I think it was a VFW. It's almost like that parking lot bumps into the where Woody's is. And so he purchased this old building and the bar, and got it going, fixed it up. Had a little bit of trouble with that, but he talks about that in the episode. And I swung in there one day, and he had like a broken ice machine, and basically I let him know that it was broken and it wouldn't be able to be fixed. So um, yeah, that was and I don't know if I ever got over there after that to check it out. But yeah, he ended up having live music, and it was really a cool place, a cool thing. Ended up getting like a young crowd of people in there. He says, he was shooting for maybe like the fancy drinks, but ended up being like the young crowd bar for whatever that's worth. And started having live music, having shows there. Had a lot of Danzo there. And then he started to get into some bigger name acts. And he talks about that, having, I think it was Kip Winger come and play. And then he started promoting shows across the street in this, it was like an empty garage that used to go with there was a car dealership across the road, Central Pontiac. And I think that they had that garage as like a garage pole barn showroom. It's downtown on a downtown lot, but um, it was like a pole barn garage kind of storage thing. And they started having live concerts there. And unfortunately, I never attended any of those either, but he had some cool names that passed through there. Uh, think he mentions like saliva, and then he also had a country act. But unfortunately, the country act didn't draw that much of a crowd. And like when you're promoting stuff like that, those shows, you end up having to pay up front, and you hope to make it back and get a little bit more once you sell tickets. They have a flat rate for what they want to come there and play, and then whatever else you can get above and beyond that, you make in your profits. So you do a couple bad shows and you're going to lose money. Um, anyway, Matt, he got involved in that, and then ended up moving away up to Houghton, and which is a couple hours. So sold the bar and started podcasting, doing the creative writing podcast. And then when I got a hold of him to talk to him, he said he was in the process of moving out of the area, unfortunately, and was going to do like the RV nomad lifestyle down in Georgia. And his wife was going to do a little bit of like travel doctor stuff. So he's going to go for that. And but I warned him, I said, the Upers, it's tough. I depends on the person, but it's tough to be away from the UP. I found that out. It's like you leave the area and you start to like shrivel up and die a little bit inside, and you got to get back to the motherland. So we'll see how that goes for Matt. Maybe we can follow up with him, catch up later on, see how things are once he's down in Peach Country, down in Georgia, living the life. See how different that is from Upper Michigan. And it's a really cool episode. I hope you enjoy it. Went well. Matt's a great talker. And what else do I want to say? Behind the scenes of this one. I hope to learn more about the Houghton area. I'm finding out that a lot of the different areas, the different towns, in the UP, there's not much in between them. I mean, there's a lot in between them, but there's like trees and woods. So then you get to this town, and it's such a they're so special and unique in their own way. So you've got Marquette, and then Houghton, Iron Mountain, Escanaba. They're all a little bit different. Menominee and the Sioux, and then out east there. So I'm definitely interested in learning about the other towns and other areas in the UP from people who are from there. And so I talked with Shooter from the Chat It Up podcast. He recently moved back to Iron Mountain, and I have a great interview with him coming up where he gives me kind of like the local insider's tour guide to Iron Mountain, and we talk about food and we talk about attractions, and that was fun. Shooter is definitely a great guest to have on the show, and has a lot of great information, especially about Iron Mountain, Kingsford, and the history of the area too, which is really neat. Could do quite a few shows on the history of that area with the Henry Ford history. Ford was kind of bebopping all around the UP, starting up lumber mills and factories and joining exclusive clubs like the Huron Mountain Club. So I want to look into that and see what he's all done around the area and been involved with. I just think I've got the tip of the iceberg on that. So we'll get more into that in the future. And with that, I think I'll wrap this up. What else could I say? We don't talk about it, but I think Matt sold used cars for a while too. I know he did that. I think he was like a cameraman for a TV station for TV6 for a little bit. But yeah, Super Uper Entrepreneur. I mean, that's the title of the episode is that. And Matt commented, he says, well, I'm not a super Uper. I don't hunt or fish. And I said, well, you're an entrepreneur in the UP. And if you can do that, you're super, because it's such a small, remote, desolate area, with, a little, I guess you could say the people here have a lack of resources. The jobs don't pay that great. I mean, they're good, but there's not that many great jobs, unfortunately. So if you can start your own business and be successful with it, then you are a super Uper. So I hope you enjoy the episode. I hope you enjoy hearing from Matt. And I think I also play a little trivia with Matt, but I'm rehashing some old Nagani trivia questions and getting his take on it. So, and we might even talk about pasties a little bit in there. I think we talk about pasties. So enjoy the episode. I'm going to get going, and hope you look forward to episode 3 that's coming up. All right. Have a good one. Talk to you later.